Are you feeling nervous about co-teaching? Or maybe you've seen all those recent videos sharing about the inclusion setting and not in a good way. Hey, special educators, I'm Jennifer from Positively Learning, and today I'm going to be sharing about my own experiences with co-teaching, the good, the bad, and so much in between. So right now we're looking at a screen of a blog post that I have out, and I do want to share the highlights of it, but I'll be also sure to link it up so you can go back and read all the details. My own experience with co-teaching. So as a special educator, I split my time to what we refer to as push in, which means I was going into the general education, the inclusion setting, and pull out, which meant there were times during the day I was pulling small groups into the resource room setting. And I will say it was a balancing act and it was a lot of work. If you're ever seeing a resource out there that's just like offering a solution, telling you exactly how co teaching is going to work, just do this, I would take it with a grain of salt. It is a lot of work, but I'm also here to say it is so worth it. When co teaching is successful, it's like magic. It's such a great experience for students, for families, and for the teachers. But it takes a lot to get there. And I've had some ups and downs along the way. So today I want to be sharing some tips that I think will help the most. You can use it sort of as a rubric if you're already currently co teaching and maybe it's not going as planned. I'm also going to be talking a bit about those 6 models of co-teaching. I know you've seen that over and over again in your undergrad courses or maybe a PD, and I'll share just my own thoughts about them. Okay, so I'm going to scroll on down, but be sure to check the description, and I will link this because I'm going to go pretty fast today. All right, so I want to focus in on these 6 tips. So we're going to look at this infographic, but just know if you kept scrolling, I talk a lot more about them. But the reason I wanted to share this infographic right here about tips is that usually when things are not going well, you can pinpoint it in one of these areas. So I know my own first experience with co-teaching was miserable. It was really miserable. It was miserable for the general educator, for myself as the special educator, and probably for the students. And I can tell you exactly where it broke down when I'm looking at this infographic. What was missing in our co teaching marriage? Definitely number one, establishing roles and responsibilities. It was definitely a 99% gen ed teacher versus 1% special educator, which was me. And it was confusing and it was frustrating, but also students picked up on it too. Oh, and for sure, families did not know what was going on. So when I look at these 6 tips, I can see that that was a missing piece. If I had to redo it, which I don't ever want to do again, I would definitely stand up for myself to establish those roles and responsibilities. Now, the other breakdown, and this is probably the most common breakdown, was communication. We just didn't. I mean, it was like a silly situation, and silly is like a very positive word for what it was. But there was no communication. But luckily, I had other co-teaching experiences throughout my teaching career that we did have awesome communication. So I got used to what it looked like, and I will share some more as we go. And then what we were absolutely missing was have fun. That was missing. But I will also say that there have been times in my co teaching experiences that we had 4 out of 6, 5 out of 6. And I will definitely say there were a few years we had all 6 going for us. And that was where it was just magical, magical. All right, so I'm going to keep scrolling down and be sure to go back and take a look at this. It just gives you some more details about those 6 tips, what you can do to get really clear about those roles and responsibilities. Of course, the differentiated instruction, that's where I just don't feel like we need to spend a lot of time. If you're a special educator watching this, you are already doing this probably every minute of every school day, right? Flexible and open to change, that's the tough one. That was a real tough one. That kind of goes with number one, which was the responsibilities and roles. You need to establish them. That was definitely my downfall my first year of teaching. But when to establish them, you still also need to be flexible. And that goes right along with communication. So be sure to go back and take a look at these. Communication, of course, I mean, it's just number four, but that seems a little silly. It should be number one and number two and three and four. It should be just all of them, right? Evaluate regularly and have fun. So, what's interesting about the have fun, I kind of hesitated to put it there, but sometimes that's like what you do have going for you. And it starts off very fun. Co teaching, oh my gosh, we're going to have a great time team teaching. But if you don't have those other things in place, the fun kind of fades. All right, so now we're looking at these co teaching models. This is probably what you are very familiar with. I've seen this in textbooks, PDs, I've seen this everywhere. So, what do I actually think about these different co teaching models? Well, I will tell you. I will tell you there are the six, but I would really focus on just maybe two to start with. And picking the two, because you're communicating so well, the two that you feel the most comfortable with, mutually comfortable with. And then you can always mix it up and add some more. So the one teaching, one observe, that's probably the most common that you see when you have some of those breakdowns, right? Like one teach, one observe might look like the gen ed teacher, and then the special educator teacher is observing. And the positives of this model would be that you could be taking data and doing observations and supporting where you see needed. It's great for the kids too, right? Because you want everyone to be learning along with their peers as much as possible, least restricted environment. However, this one teach, one observe is sometimes used, and I'm just going to say it, as a cop out. Like if you haven't established the roles and you haven't communicated, it does seem like someone's leading and the other person's just kind of floating there. And that's not a super comfortable feeling. So, yes, it is a official model, but you don't want it to be the default. Same thing with one teach, one assist. If it works, it works. It can be really great, but often it's serving as the default again because that communication, establishing roles was not there. So, what were my favorites? I will say I did a little bit of all of these, and some were great and some were not so great. It really depended on the students, it depended on the teachers. But my favorites definitely was station teaching. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. That looked like two teachers, and I'm just going to use math as an example. Two teachers teaching maybe the different components of a 90-minute math lesson. There's the application that you'd start off with. Then there was the concept development, and then some guided practice, and then independent practice, and then reteaching. Oh my goodness. We were able to use station teaching by dividing up those different sections. So students were moving in from small groups to whole group, back to independent work, back to small groups. And it wasn't just the special educator pulling small groups, because that's kind of our bread and butter, right? It was the gen ed teachers pulling small groups. And then we rotated. So that meant I wasn't working with just students on my caseload, but I was working with students that might have needed more enrichment. They were ready for more. And that was just so exciting to be able to see this math lesson being taught with different levels, different differentiation, everybody getting what they need. It took a long time to put in place, but that was where the magic was. It was amazing. So, station teaching was probably my favorite. I also did a lot of parallel teaching where we were both teaching the same lesson. We kind of split the class in half. I might have been teaching with more visuals if students needed that. Another teacher might be using more technology because that's often in place in the gen ed setting that we might not have in the resource room. So parallel teaching worked really well. Alternative teaching is something that I did quite a bit where it was like parallel teaching. One teacher is teaching one group, the other teacher is teaching another one, but they weren't so parallel. maybe the gen ed teacher is teaching a larger group and I'm teaching a smaller group. And think of it as like maybe 2/3 versus 1/3. Team teaching is where I think we get the idea that this is going to be so much fun. This is going to be great. We're going to team teach and students are going to get everything. It did not often look like the best use of our time. It looked like whole group, which was awesome. And it seemed like a lot of focus was on the actual teachers versus on the students. At least that was my experience. And so it might be role playing. I mean, I would never say it was like good cop, bad cop, but it kind of felt that way. Like one teacher was like, maybe we were like bouncing off each other a little bit, delivering the instruction, but it was kind of like our all about us, and the students were kind of our audience. So it wasn't a huge comfort zone for me or a best use of time. Okay, so what I want to show you right now are some of the tools that I have to make it a little bit easier. I am not showing this to you again as the resource that's going to solve all your problems, but I do want to show you what's out there that can definitely help. So this is going to be sort of like an unboxing. What I've done is I've downloaded these binder pages. When you look at this, I'm going to show it to you. When you look at this, you might say, I have something just like this. Or you might say, wait a minute, this is what I need. Okay, so we're just going to scroll through it. This comes in a PDF that you can print, put in a binder, share with your co-teacher, but it also comes in Canva templates. And Canva templates are amazing because when you open them up with this link right here, it's just editable. So you can go through, and I put some examples right there on how you can customize them. All right, so let's take a look. There's the co-teaching models. Now, I have this in a format, so if you were starting, maybe this is summer before you get started, or maybe a change in semester, change with students, you can revisit this page. And it's just talking about like, what are you planning? My suggestion was to think about two models that were maybe mutually comfortable and shoot and go with those first. And then maybe there's two other models that you're interested in but not quite sure about. You can record those as well. Here's a more open template to make some notes. All right, and here are, is there like a cheat sheet? And here's an empty cheat sheet. This would be great also if you are, as a special educator, is giving a PD. There's some more information about like cheering you on through it. Here's a getting to know you type of thing. This is so, so important. I mean, imagine if you did not do a survey like this. And let's just take a look at this or that, arrive early or stay late. And say that you did not know that about the co-teacher you're going to be working with the most majority of your time. And you found out that you were polar opposites. Well, that could be good and that could be not so good. It could be a little bit of a rough, rude awakening if you're there early and you're by yourself, or it could be amazing because you could establish your responsibilities. Okay, I'm going to get there and make copies. You're going to stay and like file everything. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing to split that responsibility? All right, and then here's some to-do lists and action plans. I'm going to go a little bit faster now. So lots of different varieties. And again, with the template, you can edit these. This is going along with the responsibilities, but it's also really going along with the communication. All right, I'm going to keep on going a little bit faster now. All right. And into the lesson planning. Now, I will say my own experience, we were not sitting down and doing tons of lesson plans, but that's also because after we got those 6 out of 6 tips established and we started with initial planning, then we really built up a trust. So for station teaching, we might share the activities with each other, but we also had a trust that like, I know that you're going to be giving students exactly what they needed, and I'm going to be like reteaching, giving students exactly what they needed in my small group. And here are some data sheets, planning sheets, trackers to keep us on track, and evaluating, and some binder covers. All right, I'm going to close it up here, but I definitely, oh, and meet the teacher, meet the co-teacher. All right, I'm going to close it up there, but what I will do is I will put these links so that you have what you need. And if you have any questions for me, be sure to leave that. I would love to hear about it. It's kind of a tough topic. I've been thinking about sharing this video for so long, but I also wanted to make sure I wasn't sugarcoating it. It's not an easy thing, but it is completely worth it. All right. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to your questions.